Bless you. You're welcome. All right. Good morning. How we doing? Yeah. Okay. How do we feel in the warm up overall? Yay, nay, okay. How'd it go? All right. We got some mixed emotions. So let's go over it. I'm gonna pull up Terminal and start making things bigger. Great. Okay. So what's the first thing I do? I'm gonna work in Atom, not the REPL of React. Vicky. Sounds great. So we can do create React app, and I'll call it, I don't know, what day is it today? The 7th? Let's call it New Year. All right. Doesn't like that. Have to call it New Year. All right. All right, so while this is going, what did we find to be the trickiest part about this morning's warm-up? Changing the colors? Why? What was tricky about it?
You don't know how to go from the JavaScript file to the CSS.
Okay, that would make it tricky, yeah. What else? What else was tricky? Anything? Yeah, David.
So that was tricky, and then I realized that you can do it in style. Maybe that's not correct. That too.
Yeah, it technically could have done that.
I guess it would be.
Okay, cool. No, not if it's installed globally. You should. I think if it's not installed globally, it might just be a package. Maybe then you have to, but I'm not sure. All right, looks like it's running. So let's CD into it. So we'll see. Or we just call it New Year, right? And how do we get this thing started? Okay, right. So I CD'd into it. npm start. A lot of people on Friday go, "Hey, start doesn't work." So yeah, we're not in the file yet. So we got to get into the React file first. And it says we're starting development. It's creating a localhost page over here for me. Oh man, that's kind of a jolting thing. Maybe I'll move it lower. Okay, so we've got that. Let's get Atom going. I'm gonna just open up a new tab. Open up Atom. Coming over here. Maybe I don't need this to be humongous. Okay, so we can look at what we've got available to us. Right, we've got our public. This is giving us our favicon. Where's our favicon being reflected in our website? What's a favicon? Which thing? It's actually right here. It's this is the favicon. This little thing here, right? And we can see it. It's right there, that little picture. Okay? So if I wanted to change that, I would just have to, it'd be really easy. I could just put a picture there, call it favicon.ico, and delete that one. Bada bing. Right? It's right here, right next to our title. Let's look at our index.html, where we have a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the stuff is.
Wait, did you make your? I think you made your file system big, but not the text in the. There we go.
Okay. Everybody can see, hopefully. Where Where's the cutoff? Right there. Okay. Gotta get used to this new whiteboard concept here.
Bigger for my old eyes.
Sure. There are seats up at the front. Read it. Okay. So we have a bunch of commented out stuff that we don't really need to see. I don't know why it's not highlighting anything. Isn't that weird? All right, well, what is going on? I don't know. Okay. Whatever. You could delete that. For some reason, it's not. And was this delete for me? All right, I'm gonna reopen Atom because that seems like something
Is it going slowly?
not even highlighted. Yeah, there's also some.
How does it work while they get in it?
Anybody know why it's not highlighting?
Oh, I think it's your linter. Like, not your linter, your theme. I think that's probably what it is. I think if you like tried to delete the highlighted text, then it wouldn't work. Really, it's not? What?
It's
Oh, yeah.
pretend highlighting. Okay.
Yep, it's your theme.
The theme?
Yeah.
This white theme?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's apparently badly made.
Okay. That's okay. All right. Well, whatever. That's extremely weird. So if I go like that, should delete that whole block? Okay. I can be precise. Okay, right? We don't need any of this stuff, so I'm just gonna clear it out because I don't like a bunch of extra things. I'm gonna change our title, right? That's gonna be reflected right here. I'm gonna call it New Year. Changes, cool. All right, so let's get like more into like the meat of this though. So we've got our app.css. I'm not really interested in any of this at the moment.
Why does it say no script on the body?
No script on the body in the HTML. I think it's just telling us that we need to. It's that we need to be able to run JavaScript on our machine in order for this to all work.
The script just doesn't show up on the HTML for the user, but also is not read as script by the browser. So it's like a comment for HTML.
Okay, so I've deleted our app.css. Our app's got a bunch of stuff that I don't care about. I don't want our logo. This highlighting thing is really weirding me out. And I don't need any of this. Just want to start totally fresh. Right, and then we have our index.js. This looks fine to me. And we have our index.css. Whatever, I'll leave that. I don't really care, but it's not necessary, right? I could change this if I want to be like a CSS reset or something. Okay, so we've got our app.js. Let's create another folder that's going to actually be the warm-up, and it will be our whole component, and then we'll just import it into here. Does that sound okay? Okay. So let's do it. So we're going to go to source, click on new file. Let's call it warmup.js. Enter. Okay, how do I start? What's the first thing I do? Import React. Import React from React. Okay. What's next? No, we don't need DOM. So DOM, we only need to import React DOM. That's a great guess. We only need to import React DOM the one time on that index.js. That does, it's just going to do it the one time, and then the rest of our app is not doing that. Well, what are we exporting?
The name of the class we're gonna create.
Okay, what's the class we're going to create? Warm up? Okay. So let's do that first, and then we'll do your export. I like that idea. So we go class, warm up, extends, React.component, and we can export, as Max said, default warm up. Great. What's every class need to have? What function does every class need? Okay, technically you don't necessarily need that, but I'll put that in. For now, what goes inside of there? Sounds super to me. Okay. And then really, what does every class function need? What? That's right. Good job. We go render. What does every render function need? Return. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to return. I'll return a div. The word. It's working. Okay. Let's see if it's working. Fly over to here. No, of course it's not working. Why is it not working? Somebody throw up their hand because I definitely heard some people say the right answer. Why? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We haven't imported the warm-up yet. Great. So let's import it. Import warm-up from, I think I capitalized it. Warm-up. Great. Maybe it needs to do .js. Oh, no, I don't. Just have to put it in, right? So I go warm up. Okay, it's working. Questions on what we've done so far? Just kind of setting up our components in our app. All right. Sounds good. I'm definitely going to keep this open because I'm sure I'm going to need it later. Okay, so our app.js is essentially done for now, right? Because I'm going to be doing it from our warm-up. Don't care about apps with CSS. Index.html, not interested anymore. Favicon, not interested. So let's just keep it clean and organized on the things, only on the things we need. Okay, so the warm-up called for what inside of our render? A button and a div. All right, cool. So let's do that. I know a lot of us have been using React Fragment, so maybe I'll do that. What does React Fragment do? Do we know? No. Yeah. Awesome. So before React Fragment, you had to do everything inside of a div, like the way I was just doing it. And that's something you'll see a lot probably in the wild because a lot of React things have already been built and React Fragment is pretty new. But React Fragment does allow you to just have multiple divs that are being separated, and these won't show up in the HTML, while in the past that div would. Why do we care? I guess potentially for like accessibility reasons. They're not like deeper nested in the divs if they don't need to be. Personally, I kind of like putting things in divs anyway because it helps me with styling. React fragment can be shortened to this. So I'm going to do that. But that is React fragment. That's the same thing. Yep.
How does it relate to accessibility?
It's because it's not deeper in a div inside of the HTML, right? You have screen readers and things, and they're going to read the elements on the page. And so if we have it all inside of one div, then that div is another thing that's being read and being accounted for. Well, if we do it like this, it doesn't render a separate div.
You can, like, as a side note that, like, you know, we can always get better at accessibility and screen readers and understanding what exactly is read, right? And there's a good chance that divs with just like a class will not be read by screen readers, but the main way to know for sure is by just not having it, right? Like, so that's the usefulness of React fragment.
Okay. So we wanted to have some kind of div here. So we'll say div. Right? And we had a button. And we can say click for primary. Which is fair. Let's see if that's still working. Okay, great. Did we all get this far? Okay. All right. So, what do we have to do next? What should we be thinking about? We got to think of a plan. Yeah. John.
Set up the on-click button.
Okay. Yeah, we could set up an on-click. Yeah. What else? What's our whole plan of attack? Neeleen.
I was trying to put if else statements. If it's red, then change it to blue on the side.
Okay, that could potentially work. Okay, so Neeleen says we could have a bunch of if-else statements that check the current state of our app, and if it's this state, go to this other state. Totally possible. What's another plan? What's another possibility? Muna.
You can put it into an array and have
Okay, I like that. So Muna says we can put all of our colors that we want inside of an array and state, and we can, I guess, keep track of some sort of index, probably also in state, and with every click, we could change that index and somehow use that color to change, and we could loop through that. I like that idea a lot. How will we actually use the color in the array? What's a way we could do it? Andre?
Being at random.
Yeah, we could hit it at random or loop through. I'm talking more about like how are we going to reflect that color in the div? State, yeah, but how is it actually going to be reflected? Where are we going to put that information? Sorry? Can't hear you.
Style.
And style? Yeah, okay, so a style. So it's going to be some sort of style.
he was trying to put color as of this state element, color, colon, equal, and colon.
Okay. Yeah.
You can make 3 different divs and each color is
Okay.
each click.
So Moore's idea is to make 3 different divs and then I guess to render each div accordingly.
I think you're asking about putting a class on the button prior to that into the CSS. Is that what you're-
Yeah, well, that's another one. I'm getting all the ideas. I think a lot of our ideas would work. Some of them are easier than others. I think the easiest route, or like the cleanest route, that we've come across is a combination between Muna's idea of looping through an array of colors and Jen's idea of doing the class name, having a specific class. All right, so let's look into that. So I'm going to put a class name here. And this is going to have to refer to something. Right? And right now we don't have that something, but we know we're going to get the something from where? From the state. Exactly. So I'm going to just say this dot state dot. Maybe I'll separate this out because it's going to be color array. I mean, this is going to get a little messy, but I'll show it anyway. This dot state dot color index. So I'm referring to two things in state that I don't technically have yet. So I'm going to add those to state, and then we can make this look more attractive. So let's start with that. So how do I make a state? This dot state, thank you, Diana. This dot state points to an object. I'm going to say color array. And we said that it's going to be red. What are the other colors? Yellow and blue, thank you. Okay, blue, yellow. Okay, cool. Oops, should probably spell that right. And we'll have our color index, which we're going to start at 0 because we were told that it should be a default to red, right? Is that right? Do we have any recollection of that from reading the instructions of the warm-up? Yeah. Are we awake? What's going on? It's supposed to default to red, right?
Yeah, sure.
Would this default to red?
Right.
Yes.
Everyone should think yes. No. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. All right. Let's make a CSS file. Okay. That seems like a nice.
You have that CSS right there.
I'm gonna make one specific for a warm up. So I'm gonna go new file, and I'm gonna say warmup.css. So there's a lot of different feeling for convention when it comes to the files, and there isn't like it's not Rails, so it's not exactly like has to be this way. Some people might write their file name snake case. Some people might write them camel case. For me, when I'm writing classes, I try to remember for me to do it as proud camel case because then I'm just always importing the same thing as the file, and it keeps it like clear to me. Sometimes people have things with lowercase, and then the class definitely is proud camel case. So then people start mixing things up and call me over, and we go down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
So what do you name your capital letters?
I did, yeah. But that's personal preference. That's not like a requirement.
So when I'm doing like the index and the index is containing the app, like I want to name index app, like would that be wrong?
To name index app?
So it's like the index is like for app.com, right?
Kind of. I would keep that at index. The file names that create React app give us, that index.js and that app.js, I would definitely like keep those around. Your app.js is typically like the index is always going to be that React DOM or render DOM, right? Where it sends in app, and then app is often like the control panel for the whole application. It usually keeps track of your front end routing and stuff, and then the components are kind of like their own separate. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to call it warmup.css. And inside of that, I'm gonna make how many classes? What do we think? What are some classes that might help? That sounds good, right? So I can do red, blue, yellow, and is background color? I don't have the warm-up memorized, nor am I looking at it. It's background color, correct? Okay. Let's make it red. Make it blue. Okay, questions on that so far? Yeah. So we are going to, with every click, change the class in the state, and then a different class color will be rendered based off of that.
What about the 500 by 500?
Thank you for asking that. What about that, right? What are we going to do about the 500 by 500 square? Where does that go? Height and width, right? Do we have to put that in every class?
Just the warm-up.
Goes on the warm-up class. Not quite. So we still have, we just want this one div to be that 500. Right. An ID name? Yeah, I could give it an ID. It's not a bad idea. I like that. Yes, I mean, that's the same thing as doing a class name. I'm not going to write div because I definitely want to stay away from being less specific on things, because I think if I want to build anything else down the road, that will immediately become a problem. Crispina?
Put it in the state.
We could. I mean, we could also do just some concatenation and add another class, potentially. We could say like that plus something. Or an ID, right. That was someone else's idea as well. I kind of like that. Let's try that. I'll do my invisible highlighting. Give it an ID. And I'm going to call it primary color. And inside of here, right? Because I don't want to duplicate code ever. Height, 500 pixels, width, 500 pixels. Okay. So for some reason, it's still not visibly showing up, right? Look at it. Huh. Why?
Give it a background color so you can see it. And just so you can see that. So.
If I give it a background, I think it might override. This might be because I'm doing an ID and a class at the same time. But sure. Like a good try. Oh, I know what's going on. Okay, well, we haven't imported anything yet, right? This is like the classic mistake that we're all going to make so many times, right? I already made it this morning, right, earlier. If we go to our warm-up, how would it know, right? I just created this warm-up CSS file. It doesn't exist anymore. So let's import it and then see if we need to do anything. So I'll say import.
Or you don't link the CSS to the HTML.
Not anymore. Okay, and create React app. This is how we're gonna do it. And I'm gonna say warm up .css. You definitely need the .css. And here we go. So this is too big for my display. So I'm gonna actually change the size and break. Oh, I think it's highlighted. Okay, cool. We good so far? What? Okay.
What happened to the button? I don't see it.
We do see it? It's right here.
Oh, it's in the button.
Yeah, Johnny.
Can I see your index.js again?
Index.js hasn't changed, but I will definitely show it to you. It is still just that React DOM render.
Again, after the
So my index should look the same as yours. Our app should also hasn't changed much. We're just importing our warm up and showing it. Who's confused about that? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. So index.js is always going to look the same. This is how we actually visually get to see things. This is our React DOM.render, and then we give it one thing, right? One div, one component, and we say that we want this to go inside of our root. Okay, our root is our only div on our HTML page inside of our public file. App is the application. App later on is going to be in charge of our routing, but for now, we only are doing one page, no routes, and we will see every single thing in app or component that is placed inside of app for now. Inside of app, we've imported another component which we created today, and we've then just placed that component inside of this div. We okay with that so far? Inside of warm-up, we're doing a little bit more. We're importing a CSS file, which we created. Maybe if I feel like getting really organized, I'll make a CSS folder and stick that in there. But maybe I won't. We'll see what happens. And then we've done our class warm-up extends React.component. You can also take component out and import it up here. I've seen a lot of people do that pattern. I like this one for me, but to each is their own. We have our constructor and super, and then inside of our constructor we have this state. So, yeah.
Sorry to stop you. I'm wondering why we're extending from React component again. I can't remember.
That gives us all of our React stuff for a component. No problem. So okay, so let's just check our understanding here with something. So I'm going to put a debugger here. I'm going to put a debugger here. Okay. Now, when I don't want to hit save yet, but when I save and this page reloads, what are we going to hit? What's our first? Where do we stop first? The render. What else? Who else? We only got two options. What do we think? Render? Some people think render. Constructor? Okay, most of us didn't vote at all. 95% of us didn't vote. What's wrong? Have no idea.
I don't understand the options.
Okay, thank you. So we have a debugger inside of our constructor and a debugger inside of render. I'm going to save and refresh our page. I'm asking what debugger are we going to hit first? Your team render. Okay, team constructor. Okay, here we go. I like that. I like that voting. Now, Now me and the two other people who voted last time don't feel alone. Okay, we're like very much split. So that's pretty cool, and this is important. So we can think about this a little bit logically as well. Inside of our current render, we're relying on state already existed. How could state exist if we didn't hit our constructor? But let's take a look. So we hit it, and we'll be able to see down here. We are in, that's one too big perhaps. We are in our constructor. So this is the first thing we are. We can check our things. We can look at this state. We can see, all right, we've got our color array. We've got our color index. Great. Now if I hit continue, where are we going to go? Okay, great. So now we're in render. And in render, we still have access to our state, right? We can go this dot state. So we're currently doing this fancy this dot state. Oh man, there's no highlighting. Okay. We're currently writing this line, right? This dot state, if I can make that, dot color array, and then we're keying into that array at this dot state dot color index, which we can currently see is 0 from the last one. So we can see that we get the color red. So that's going to be our class name for the first round. Yeah.
Can you explain how this dot state dot color array is pointing up there to? I don't really understand that.
Okay. So do you understand the state? Or
Probably not.
okay, that's fine. So when this component loads, this is like doing like new animal, right? And we get this new animal, and that animal has this attached to it, right? If we go to new animal, and we pass in Corey human, like that's the name of the species, or Haman, whatever, and then if inside of the class, if we said like, oh, this dot name, it would come out as Corey. Does that sound familiar? Or it kind of looks like, I'll do it down here. We did stuff like class, animal, we did name, we did species, we had constructor, or we did name. Oh no, we didn't actually do that. That was here, right? Name and species. Super. Then we did this dot name, this dot species. Does this look kind of familiar? Yeah. And so that's it's the context of that object. So when I say human equals new animal, and I pass in Corey, or the cat, right? This animal object has this, which is the context of what it keeps track of. So I could say human.name, and I get Corey, and I get human.species, and I get cat. That's this, keeping track of its own personal properties. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing over here. This is just a this, and we're calling this property state. Yeah?
Scroll back down. What is the super doing?
Nothing. We don't need to do it. I was doing it more for familiarity purposes.
That's because there's no extent. It's not extending from anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, let me just ends creature. Maybe takes in a name.
And that allows you to use all the methods and
This is everything creature has, and then whatever animal has. As we know, the genetic tree goes creature, animal, human. Okay, so same thing. So just like before when we had this dot name, now we have this dot state. And so, and since state is an object, I can key into it using dot notation to do this dot state dot color array, this dot state dot color index. No problem. Yeah.
We have the super here. Super.
Well, yeah, because we're extending Rick. Eventually, I'm going to show you a way where we don't actually need to write constructor necessarily at all. It's a slightly different pattern, but this we'll keep it clear for now. Okay, we good so far? All right, so I'm gonna get rid of our, where's my mouse? I'm gonna get rid of the debugger. And I'm gonna refresh our page over here. Okay, so I think we somebody said it earlier. What's our next attack? Was it you, Johnny? What we need to do next? Almost sure you said we need to handle a click, but that was you, right? Okay. I'm like, I thought I'm losing my mind here. You're losing your mind. Okay. That's all right. Okay, so let's add that. So we're going to need some form of click handler, and we should probably have that where? Loud and proud. Before render. Yeah, where are we going to write it? I like to write code as if I already have it and then fill in the blanks. I'm going to add it to the button. That's what I'm looking for. I think I wasn't clear enough in that question. So how do I add a listener to this button? On click, sure. What are some other listeners we have?
Also, mouse in the same.
Mouse over. There is like an on mouse hover, I think.
Are they all the regular ones that we use now? They just add one to it, so we get one submit and one change.
Yep. Essentially, totally, yeah. So Mateo says we have a lot more events because we learned a lot more events earlier, but now we just say the word on in front of them and write them as camel case. Sounds good. Pretty much that's how it's going to be. So on click, what do we want to happen? Sure. So this dot handle click. Some people write on handle click. Just different people. We get this beautiful error that says, like, "Hey, you don't have that." I go, "Oh, okay." Oh, that too. Okay. Now what does it say? Now when I click it, we'll get our error. Oh, it doesn't throw an error. Interesting. It just completely ignores it. Okay, so we got to write a handle click. So I'm going to write that before the render, but under the constructor. And I'm going to write handle click. Okay. And if I'm writing in an ES5, what do I need to do? I got to bind. This keeps the context of this because handle click is what kind of function? What kind of function is handle click? Somebody said callback. Yeah, exactly. So all events are essentially handled as callback functions. And so the context for a callback function is typically, I mean, you can get around it with the fat arrow, but otherwise it's the window or the document. It's like where it is called. It's not the this. It's not referring to the right this. So I can do that inside of my constructor. simply I can just go, I don't want all these spaces. I can go this dot handle click equals this dot handle click dot bind this. This is going to keep the this inside of our handle click. Yeah.
But if we use the arrow function, we don't have to.
Right. I'll show all of the ways. Okay. So for fun, I'm going to do debugger inside of our handle click. And I'm going to show us why we need these things. I'm going to save that without. This is commented out. Okay? We go here. I go to click on our button. We hit our debugger. Awesome. We're in the right function. I go to our console and I write this. Because it's undefined. This guy's state freaks out. Doesn't have it. Okay? Gonna comment this back in. Save it. Refresh. Click. Go to our console. I'm gonna look at this. And I get something. It's this warm up with this props, context, refs, updater, state. This got state. I have it. That's what I'm using bind. So I should note that if we do it like this, when we go to set state with items from our state, it will work. However, with the debugger, so I'll show you, the debugger still won't work. That's like a Chrome thing. But if I go this dot state, it still freaks out, even though we technically do have this here. But if that's why I just always write this anyway, even if I am going to write it as ES6, this will also help. This will still work here. So you basically, if you want to use your debugger tool effectively, you have to use bind for now. Okay.
Is that just a Chrome thing?
I think. Well, I haven't tried the other browsers, but
I mean, it's not like it's a browser. It's still there, you say.
it is there with the fat arrow function. It's still there.
So it's there, but it's not really there, like it's there, but it's not really there.
It's totally there in the world of React. It's not there in the world of debugging on Chrome. Yeah.
Dot state and dot bind, are they React specific methods?
No. State here is nothing. Set state is React specific. Bind is all JavaScript. Bind, call, apply, they're all in a similar wheelhouse.
I thought state was actually React. I've seen it asked about this state.
Yeah. You can, that's just how like a variable is being made. Like it's not React specific. Set state is. Okay, do we understand why binding helps us for debugging purposes? Also, if I didn't like binding up here, I can also bind here. I can bind there. Johnny?
Is it, let's say we have multiple functions, and you start getting a list of bindings. Is that okay?
Yep. Totally okay. He said, what if we have a lot of functions? Is it okay to bind? Have a list at the top? See, it still works with the bind down here. Personally, I mean, this is like a personal preference. For me, I like to do it up here. I like the idea of somebody coming to my file and being able to see every function, like event handling function right at the top, so they can quickly understand what they're about to see. I think that's a nice touch. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this in here so we can see it. So, okay, we have to, what do we have to change on the click? Yeah, great, we have to change the index. Okay, and so how do we change the index? How do we set state? No, we're not gonna need a for loop, we're gonna need to write this dot set state. Okay, so we go this dot set state. What does set state take as an argument? What do we think? An object. Awesome. Technically can take a function as well in some situations. Right now we're just going to be teaching about objects. But just be aware, if you see someone who's written a function, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. Okay, so we're going to go set state. We need to say the key of what we want to change. So we want to change color index. And what do we want to change color index to? Elaine.
To the one right after the last one. So it's cycles through.
Sure. So the next number, so she says. So we're going to go this dot state dot color index plus 1. Sounds good?
When you get to 2, how would you get back to 0?
Well, we'll have to figure that out. Let's see. Good catch. All right, so we save it. We've got our handle click in there. Let's see if it works. So we're going to click, get blue, we get yellow, and we get nothing. What happened? There's nothing to go to. So we ended up with our color index being the number 3, right? And here we went to render and wasn't there. Interesting. So what's a way we can do it, Takia? I guess that's up to you. I think the direction said cycles through. So to me, that means like it has to hit every single one before the next one. But yeah, if that was an exam, definitely like check and clarify. But yeah, right, that's personal preference. You could definitely design it to give a random one, and that's not wrong if that's your application. Somebody I haven't heard from, maybe. It's a way to get around this. Or not?
Well, it's actually a question.
Mm-hmm.
If we spend much time on guiding this,
Bind is keeping the context of this. So whenever this gets called, since this is an event, this is going to get fired as a callback function. And a callback function's this is a different context. It's the context of like the window. But when we bind this, meaning like this is the app or the component, it's saying whenever, no matter what, this is this function's context.
so it's, the argument it takes is open it then, or? this-
Yeah, we're essentially passing in the scope. That's a good way to look at it. When we do fat arrow functions, one of the things that separates them is because they're like these anonymous functions and that they do keep track of this when they are created. So that's why we don't technically need this for it to work, but we do need this for Chrome tools. Let me demonstrate that. So if I get rid of this line, although we are now blind to the handle click, React is not. So React still has this. But if I put our debugger in, it'll be trash. But I also should spell it right. But so now if I wanted to go look at this, I go, oh, this dot state. And go, oh, but I'm using it. What's going on?
What does it give you
Oh, well, state is undefined. So this gives us this cannot be property state of undefined. Because this is undefined.
Because you're outside. And
It's a Chrome debugging mistake that they need to fix. Because we technically do have access to our this and our state right now. However, the way it's currently set up in Chrome's programming, I guess, is that we need to have this explicit bind in order to actually get to see it. And I've like read into it a lot, trying to find like a lot of people with the same problem, but there's not as many as I would like. What?
combining this better way, because right now the debugger was inside the click function, so this that state wasn't defined because it's not inside that function. But once you combine, then it's kind of combining those scopes, and then how.
It's not actually combining, it's just saying this is your scope.
Oh, okay.
Or like you have access to this.
I'm still not understanding what's going on with
The bind,
Yeah.
the bind is keeping the context of where our function is. So we still have access to this,
Which function?
the whole component. And the function that we're talking about is handle click, which is, I'm trying to highlight. I cannot highlight. But this, well, I'm just gonna have to, maybe that's what I'll do.
You're in line 11.
Yes. So line 11 is, so we are keeping, this is a event listener. This is a function that's going to fire after an event is fired. Right? A click is going to happen. We're going to fire this function. When functions fire from events, they are called callback style. This is a scoping issue. Right? There's method style, constructor style, and function style. When a callback is function style, the this becomes like the window or undefined in the situation.
I'm still not 100% clear on how the background is changing. How it's connected to CSS.
Great. I'm gonna just take care of the final bind questions, and that's definitely where I want to move next. Are we good with at accepting that we have to use the bind in order to use the Chrome? You can think of it as we need to do this for Chrome, otherwise we can just write this in ES6. It's
Is there any
not that I know of. Okay, cool. So how is this happening, right? That's a great question. Okay, so we've got our debugger and our handle click. I'm gonna put a debugger back inside of our constructor, and I'm gonna put our debugger back inside of render. Okay, so when I save and reload, what debugger are we gonna hit? All right, team constructor. Oh, it should be more. We've done it. Okay, that's our.
What was the question?
What debugger are we gonna hit? We got a debugger in every single thing we've written right now.
You just refresh it?
Yeah, when I save and refresh. What? Constructor. Okay. All right, whatever. Let's try it.
I was waiting for you to say.
Okay. We are in our constructor, right? We need every single time, always constructor. For now. And then, no, I think it's always. Anyway, okay, so then when I hit continue, where are we going next? Where are we going next?
Brother.
Render, okay, team render. Okay, team constructor again. Okay, team handle click. Okay, interesting. So let's try it and see. When I hit continue, We are now in the render. Always. It's always going to go constructor and then render. Handle click hasn't happened yet. There's been no click, so that function won't fire. But that's like a valid guess. Okay, what's next? What are we hitting next? Okay, team nothing. I got you. Yeah. Oh no. What happened? That's bizarre. I have to make sure. Did the bulb burn out? What's going on? The bulb burned out. Awesome. Just take iOS. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Are they a little different? This is bad practice. So
This looks the same as one.
the thing is, I'm using one of this div.
Oh, you're using this style. Oh,
Is that bad practice?
I don't know. I think it's okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. That coffee's good.
Because I was just like, when I saw that, I was like,
All the other up, great. All right, we're back. Davey's gonna sit somewhere else. No, all right. Let's restart because I know some of us may not totally remember because we just shut off for 5 minutes. Okay. Currently, we've got our class warm up constructor. This dot state. We got our handle click. We got a debugger inside of our constructor. We've got our handle click function also with the debugger and a set state of +1. And then we've got our render, which is currently grabbing this dot state dot color array. This gives us back an array, and then we're keying into that at this dot state dot color index, which gives us back a number, right? Okay, we got our button. On the click of the button, we fire our handle click, which also has a debugger. Okay, I'm gonna refresh the page. What's the first debugger we're gonna hit? Okay, thank you for those of you who are participating. Yes, we've hit our constructor. Awesome. I continue, where do we go next? The render, excellent. Oh my gosh, deja vu. Where's next? Okay, so team nothing. Team handle click. Team constructor. Team render again. Okay, let's try it out. 1, 2, 3, bazinga. Point for team nothing, right? We haven't hit any other debuggers. We've hit our constructor. We've hit our render. That's it. Just by calling our render, we don't automatically call click. We're waiting. Come on. We're waiting for the on click in order for that to happen. Yeah, don't worry. Run across. Like, where are you gonna go? Okay. It's like, what? 30 seats? Okay. Just so we know, for those of you who are just coming in, team nothing, we got that point. All right, I'm team Edward. Okay, so now if I click for primary, what's next? What are we gonna hit? Okay, we're gonna hit handle click. Awesome. And we do. All right, excellent. Team handle click, which I gave us to all of us on that team, got a point. Good job. Okay, so where are we going next? What's gonna happen next? When I hit continue, what happens next? We're gonna hit handle click again. Okay. What else might happen next? Maybe render. All right, so we just fired a handle click, right? If it's for me, just tell them I'm in the middle of a lesson. That's okay. Okay. But if it is for me, that's weird. Okay. We have access to all your phone numbers. Most people now call me through you guys. So, okay. So, all right. So, let's take a vote. The color will change, possibly. All right. So for team nothing, as we're not going to hit any more debuggers. Let's say, I wouldn't throw your hand up so quick. Raise your hand for team nothing. Okay, possible. For team render, throw up your hand. We're inside of handle click right now. All right, for team handle click, okay, so you can only vote once. And for team constructor, okay. Right, so we're not really sure. That's great.
That's great. That's a great question.
So Davey's question is, hey, does a new instance get created every time we set state? And the answer is no. A new instance does not get recreated every time we set state. But what does happen when we set state? Exactly. So where are we going to go? Let's check it out. We're going to hit our render. Yeah, good question. Could somebody tell me why? David.
Like, notices the changes from what you had previously. Now it compares it, like gets the version DOM, and then like each word outputs to the React DOM, it goes to render.
Yeah, that's pretty good explanation. I'm going to simplify it down for this and just say, so set state updates the state and then calls render. That's what it's doing. So every time we change state, we have to call our render. So right before we had our IDX at 0, and we had our color, right? And now inside of render, I can look at what our IDX is, and I can go this dot state dot color IDX, and now it's 1. Can anybody tell me why we're still seeing the color red? Yeah, that's fine. So Neeline says because our debugger stopped it before it's actually hit its return, where it's going to get its new color right here. So if I hit continue, we should hit what? We should hit nothing, but the color should change to blue. Huzzah. Yeah, David.
So I saw there's like a React development tool where they could just see the states at any given time. So you have to like log into it.
Nice. That is cool. I don't know that much about that. I'll look into it. React Dev Tools. Okay, I'll have to download that. Sounds cool.
Oh yeah.
I'm so used to the debugger. Okay. Do we understand how that's working? All right, so I'm going to remove the debuggers. Ben, does that answer your question with where the colors are coming from?
A little bit.
So every time that this re-renders, the class name is dependent on our state. And we get our state color from keying into this array. So it's either going to be red, blue, or yellow.
Your lesson has connected to the CSS, right?
Yeah, that's most of what I was mentioning.
That's coming in from our importing of the CSS.
Alright, so I like commented out that import. Oh, maybe I didn't say it after I commented out.
Maybe.
Comes from that
But it's-
class name.
yeah.
Do you see the class?
Lots of other coloring this stuff to that. Or for the what? No primary color.
You just go through the CSS.
Alright.
Okay. So I'm going to, oh yeah, the highlighter doesn't work. I think that's highlighted. Nope. Okay. Okay, so we've got our class name pointing to it. So let's make this a little bit cleaner. What's something I can do to make this look cleaner? Who haven't I heard from much? No, I've heard a lot from you. All right, I'll take repeats. Yeah, Nalene.
You can say that this does state that color array is some variable that's not shown.
Yeah, maybe. I'm definitely going to keep that because I want it to be explicit. But what I'm kind of looking for here is this idea of using object destructuring in order, because I'm writing this.state.color, this.state.color index. This is a lot. It might be nicer for me to write it once and go let what?
I think JR asked Reed yesterday that can you just put it like global music, just access it everywhere and it's right each every time.
Yeah, I don't know much about I don't like to do this global stuff if I don't have to.
But that means you have to be structuring like on every function that you make on the render and every other.
Yeah, that tends to be how I like to write it. Because that way it's like really clear what we're going to be using also. I kind of like this because it's like right up the front. Like these are what we're pulling from state. Although React itself might not necessarily be that opinionated, you'll find as a developer you become very opinionated anyway. So you get into habits that you specifically like and you have specific reasons for why you like them, but other people might not as much. So personally, I like it this way. So I'm going to keep it and have that equal to this dot state. And instead of, I'm going to be able to remove. So that shortens down to that. Let's make sure everything's still honky-dory. Cool. So we're back to this white box once we get that color index to 3, right? What can I do to get around this? Dave.
Modulo 3.
I like that. So Dave says we can modulo 3 on it. So let's do it. Maybe I should do object destructuring here too, just because I'm doing it. Just that state. Yeah, I do need brackets. Good call. And we can modulo 3. Right? Because if it's 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, modulo 3 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, modulo 3 is 2. And then 2 plus 1 is 3, modulo 3 is 0. So this should work. So we'll save it. We'll find our mouse. Yep.
Can you explain that modulo is 3 again?
Sure. So color index currently is 0, right, when we first call it. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So we have number 0 plus 1. This gives us 1, right? 1 modulo 3. Whoops. What's 1 modulo 3? Yeah, 1. So then the next round we'd have 1 plus 1. This becomes 2. 2 modulo 3 is what? Yeah, right? How many times does what's left over after 3 goes into 2 0 times? What's left over is 2. So then we would have 2 plus 1 is 3 modulo 3. 3 modulo 3? 0. Then if we keep going, it'll be 0 plus 1. We're back at the top.
So just so that's 3 doesn't go into 1. Because the remaining is just 1 that is there.
Sorry?
Because 1 is like 1 doesn't go into 3.
Well, 3 goes into 1 0 times,
Okay.
and so then 1 is left over.
Alright.
It's kind of like this idea of we have like a pot of candy. This is the candy we have, and then this is the number of people we have, and we're saying, hey, we all get a piece of candy, or none of us get a piece of candy, or we all are at least going to get the same amount of candy, no matter what. So if there's only 1 piece of candy and there's 3 of us, we're all even, so nobody gets a piece of candy, and so we still have 1 piece of candy left. Yeah, Kelly.
After you added the color range, yes, what did you just replace the class name?
So can you repeat the question?
The color range index, you made a change to that, what did you do?
I just did this object destructuring, so that now instead of writing this.state.color array and this.state color index, I can just do color array color index. Yeah, Mateo.
And so just to confirm, the reason why you chose 3 is the list is the length of color array, you just put color array dot length.
Yep. Exactly. So that was my next question. My next question is, hey, how do I make this more adaptable if we want to change like to the color purple and the color yellow someday in the lane?
Instead of 3, have the whole thing and have index, color index, like that.
Yeah, exactly. So now if I made this color array length, I have to also bring in I'm home. If we also have to bring in our color array, somebody is eager to go on their date. It's like a whole movie. Okay. If this, it's a lot adaptable. So if I wanted to add a color in here, and I said like green, I still have to change it in the CSS, but I don't have to change anything else in the color. And so that's nicer than having to also then go remember how many items are in my array. I have 4 items. Let me do it. For now, I'm just going to leave it with the 3. Since we make a change, you bet I got to check our work. Still works. Awesome. So that was the whole warm-up, right? Oh, you don't have to clap. That's. Yeah. Oh yeah, we did it together. Okay, so any questions on how this is working? What we're doing? No? Okay. We sure? Yeah, Jim.
So, can you go over how the figure, like, how React is using all the files, like, really quickly, just like what's going on, like, to render the page at all?
Yeah, so the rendering is happening in our index.js where we say, hey, React DOM, which is this thing, this npm install. We've npm installed React DOM. And we didn't do it. Create React app already did that for us. And it's saying, hey, we want you to render at this element. We want you to render this component. And so it's showing us app. And inside of app, we are just currently showing one thing. I could show other things. Say, this is app. And this will now show up at the top of our screen. Because it's just whatever's inside of here is going to be showing up. Unless we add conditional logic and stuff. Or routing. And then inside of our warm-up is we're just importing our CSS. We've got our constructor with our color array and color index. We've got a handle click in here. Every time they click, we're incrementing our color index by 1 and modding by 3. So we always stay between 0 and 2. And then inside of our render, we are just showing the div and the button. The button is listening for that click to make that change. And the div is getting its class specifically from the color array and the color index, which is getting its styling from our CSS. And we're exporting at the bottom so that we can use it somewhere else, specifically an app for this instance. Anyway. It should be the same as yours. Have not touched it, but I guess I will because I don't really need that. Good? Okay, so let's learn a little bit about forms, what we're here for today. I'm going to get rid of our warm-up from our app. I'm gonna remove oops, that. And I'm gonna comment this out so we can remember that it existed. Or I can actually, this might be a good example. I'm gonna leave it all in. Okay, and instead, we're gonna create kind of like a sign up. Okay? So think about when you go to a new website like Facebook. At one point, we all had to sign up. Or OkCupid, and you had to put in a bunch of details about yourself. And you probably have had to fill out lots of forms online, whether you're getting an event on Eventbrite, filling out a review for Yelp or a different review thing, writing a post. I mean, these are all a type of form of some sort. Can we agree with that? Cool. Okay, so today let's create some sort of weird sign up. So I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to say sign up.js. And we shall start again. What's the first thing we need to do? Import what? Sounds good. Import React from React. That's a nice one, right? That keeps it simple. And then we got to make our what? Class. We'll call it sign up. And what's it do? Send from React component. Now there are a lot of shortcuts out there, like packages you can download to do all of this like instantly. But I do recommend like making sure you know it before you use those. Because I definitely originally just used the packages and like knew React, but then when asked how to make a component, I'd be like, I don't know. Like I knew it, like I know how to work it perfectly in that sense, but I don't know how to write class to an extent. So it's important to like to go back and make sure you know it, even if you're using a package. Because on a whiteboard in an interview, you don't have a tab to autofill. All right, and then what can we do to not forget? Max, you had mentioned. Sounds good to me. We'll do our export default sign up. Looks good. We got a weird space in there, though. All right, let's get rid of that. And okay, what do we need to have in here? Constructor we're going to use, okay. Technically, we don't necessarily need it, but we'll get into that eventually. And what do we for sure need? Render, okay. Render. Definitely spelled that one, right? Okay. What does render definitely need? Definitely needs a return. And we will, I'm just going to do a div like I usually do. Thank you. Return. Let's sign up. Okay, why is it not showing up? We just wrote it. What? Where is it? Oh, we did export though. Ah, yes, right? How many times are we going to hit this? So many times. Okay, so we'll go over here and we're going to import. What do we import? Sign up from / sign up. Cool. It's easy. I remember it's the exact same case for me. So really easy for me to remember that. But it also might be easy for you to remember that your file names are all just regular camel case or snake case. For me, I don't have that memory. So I'm going to do it like this. And let's do this before the warm-up. Let's just do sign up. Right, this is a self-closing tag because we're not putting anything in between it because it's not like a regular HTML tag. We're going to save that, and now we got our sign up. It shows up perfect. Beautiful. Go back to our sign up. I'm realizing that I probably need to do git here in order for everybody to see this after. So I'm going to do git init, status, git add, git status, git commit, warm up, complete. Really what we're at anyway, and then I'll push that later. Okay, just don't want to like forget to commit. Forget to commit. Okay. Where is our sign up? Okay, so we don't really want to have a div that just shouts sign up necessarily. So let's do our React fragment because we seem to be into that. So I'm going to shorten my React fragment to this. And I'm going to put this inside of an h1 tag so that we all know that this is the main thing for this. Right? This is just like a personal thing. You don't have to do this. Okay. And we get this big old sign up now. Okay, so, yep.
So right after the return, what is that?
This is React fragment. This is the same as me writing React dot.
So replies all.
Yeah, it's like a syntactic sugar. You could, yeah, what the heck? I'll put React fragment in for this one.
When we say syntactic sugar, right, we mean that it doesn't always make a lot of syntactical sense, but programmers decided that it would be easier to type, so they just added that. Right? So don't try and parse what an empty tag means. It's just React.
Yeah, programmers are inherently lazy. Never see one running while programming.
That would be really fun.
Maybe Alex. He's like as close. Alex runs a lot already. He might program while he runs. That would be awesome. Okay, but I like wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so anyway, so for this we're making a form. So let's set up a form. What do we use for a form? Form tag sounds good to me. And we'll go more into forms a little bit later, but for now, I'm just going to have form here. And so let's pretend I want to take someone's name and email. Sounds fair, right? What kind of tag is good for something like that? The tag, I like that. So let's say input. What does an input tag take? Can't just do tab anymore because I'm using JSX. Type, exactly. And good type for this might be text. We're gonna write text in here. Inputs take all type of type. Inputs have multiple types. They have text, they have file, they have submit, they have like lots of different types. So you want to choose the appropriate one for you. So we're going to say text. I'm going to add a placeholder so we can see what's inside. I'm going to say in here, I'm going to put like your name. What else does this need to have? Also a good idea for this to have. Could have a class. I'm gonna disregard that for right now. Or we can go back when we want to like do some styling. Since we're not styling, what else? What else do our inputs always seem to have? Yeah, that you tend to have a value and also a name. Right, so I'm going to say name. It's convenient. It also happens to be name. I like that value. What should our value be? Could be empty. Sure, we'll start off with it being empty. Let's see what happens.
When do we use the name, like, when do we use it?
I promise to show that. Okay. Okay. So I've got that, and this looks pretty good. I'm going to add a label, because right now when we save, let's see, it shows up as just like your name, and that's good, but what if there's a screen reader that's looking for a label for accessibility purposes? So for that, I'm going to add a label, and the label points to a specific thing. So I'm going to say like HTML4. I'm going to say name. I'm going to say name, label, and then here I'm also going to add the ID of name, because this is looking for the ID. So I'm going to say ID, also name. Okay, so now we have a label for our name. And haven't saved. Yep.
So what does a label technology do?
What does a label do? This is to help with accessibility. So people can know, it will say like the label for this input is take the name.
By putting ID name, it targets label.
These are connected now. Yeah. Right, you can get around not doing it. It's okay. But it's nice to consider different situations. It also makes it clear to other people. Maybe I should put it inside of the label. I could, but yeah.
So disregard, like, even if you don't have the HTML for, they'll still be next to your.
Then I think we would probably have to wrap it inside.
Oh.
Yeah, I could.
So the name will still be next to your.
I could wrap it,
Okay.
but I'm not going to for this. Okay. Just want to keep it separate for us. I know Reed mentioned that this isn't necessarily the greatest habit, but it's going to work for now because I'm not doing any styling. So this is just going to give us a little break. And we'll do another input. And what should this input be? Yeah, pretty similar to the last one, right? The placeholder. Say your email. And we'll say the name of this is email. What should the value be? Do we know? What do we think? All right, we'll stick with the same one as last time. And I know I'm going to do a label, so I'm going to do ID of email. This is another self-closing tag. And I'm going to do the quick label for this. Great. Now we get this name and email. Do we think it's going to work when I type in here? What do we think? Everything okay?
Submit that form.
Yeah, we could submit the form. I'm not going to worry about submission for a couple days. But, so what's going to happen when I go to type? So, I'm not going to do anything. Oh no. Why? I'm not changing the state. Okay, so let's create a state. Let's try to attack this a different way. So we'll create a state and we'll say, all right, this dot state points to an object. Okay. I'm gonna put a name in here. What should be the value of what's a good initialization of our state here? Maybe empty. This is the state we're creating, right? Got our email. What makes sense for this one? Same thing. Yeah, empty. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is it gonna work now? Still not working. What do you mean by wrap it in a function?
The state, exclusive braces, brackets, function.
Do you mean like sets, using set state? Okay. All right, so let's write something like we say handle change. We'll go handle change. And this is going to take in, so this is an event, right? This is an event handler. So we haven't been using it because we've just been doing clicks, but now we can actually use event identifier and pass in the event automatically. Since I'm writing an ES5, what do I need to do? I need to bind it. Good call. So I'm going to do, oh my goodness. This handle change, this dot handle change, dot bind this. Perfect. Okay. If I put a debugger in here, and we got to add that, where do we want to add it? To here, input? Sure. We'll say on, what do we want to listen for? What's a good event for something like this? I'll change what? Okay, let's keep track of every change. And I'm going to do this dot handle change. Okay, so I'm only going to do it on the name for now. I'm going to go to type in. We've hit our debugger. Oh, interesting. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, whatever. And I say, don't worry about that right now. And I'm going to say event. What do I want to see about the event? What did I want to see when we were doing dot manipulation? Yeah, event dot target dot value. Okay, so event dot target dot value def. Sounds pretty good, right? Great. So how can I write this? What's next? How do I write this function? You tell me. Okay. So what we're going to shoot for is we want to be able to type into that bar, right, that input, and we want to update our state and also see that reflected in that bar. Yeah.
Do the set state and the
Okay.
name. Set the name on the folder.
So we can do set state name.
Then start marking the down.
Okay, interesting. How do we feel about that line? Are we okay with that? Not okay with that? Oh, God. This is colorful enough. What do we think? How do we feel? Yes, no, okay? Everyone needs to vote, or I have no idea what we're thinking. How do we feel about this as our handle change? Yes? No? Oh, okay. So for the no's and the okays, how come? What's the concerns? Keely. Oh, you're happy with it. Okay. So people who aren't happy with it though, like what's the main concern? What's the main reason we're not happy with it? And it's okay not to be happy. What is this that set state to? Good question. What does this that set state do? Anybody tell me? Let's Eric.
It allows you to change.
Yeah, so it allows us to update the state, and then it calls. What happens after we call set state?
Calls render.
Then it calls render. So it updates the state, and then it re-renders. Yeah, Eric?
Not that we're not really doing an action thing. We're not doing this state action.
Well, we are calling it by the key in the state. Okay, but let's try it. Let's see if we can gain any insight from trying. So I'll refresh. Get rid of that. And we're going to try it, type in name. We're going to say C. Shows up really quick, right? We do see the C happens before we hit the debugger. We can check this dot state. Still empty, that's fine. We continue. Nothing is there. However, I want to just show something real quick. When I type in an O, and I hit, and I check our state, it shows we got a C in there. Why?
Because we have, that's one. The C is stating the render, and we increase the debugger.
Sort of, yeah, sort of. But Y is going away, yeah. Why is it not showing up? Once I hit continue, why is this now gone? Our state, I promise, is right now CO. Exactly. So if I type in R, and I type in the same thing, now it says O. Because now it says O, right? Okay. Keeps redefining itself, sure. Because right, if we look at our event dot target dot value, it's R. And the next one will be just R. Right. So this event's happening every time, but that's what we want. But it's not showing up. This is what we should be thinking about. We should be thinking about the fact that we've changed our state and our render hasn't changed. So we should probably be looking in our render for the answer for this. So if we look inside of our render, and we look here, what do we see? What's something? Yeah. The value is empty. Yeah, that's a great observation. So every time we render and we say the value is empty, what's it going to show? Nothing. Right? But if I had put the value in as Corey already, it's always going to show Corey. No matter what. Right? So what should really go here instead of empty? Somebody who feels confident, maybe. We're not confident, but wants to go for a guess. We're not? Okay, so we don't have access to an event here. It hasn't happened yet, but I like that guess. Jen? Yeah, that sounds good to me. So what if we tried in our JSX and we said, hey, this dot state dot name. So if name is initially empty, well, that would work for the first one. We would update our state and update the value. So maybe that would work. So let's try it and see. Okay, so now it looks like it's keeping it, and when we look at our this dot state, we're still there. That's because we haven't hit our state yet. Set state, just so we know, is asynchronous. Okay, we should be aware of that. It's an asynchronous action. So if I put our debugger underneath set state, it might not have already happened. Like it won't have happened by the time we hit it. Yep. Yeah, great. So we're not saying like, hey, when we were doing this in HTML, we had one listener on the form. That was, yeah, sure. So I'm just gonna show two things. I will hit that in a minute. Okay, so let's say we do that, and we know this is probably also going to be the exact same thing, right? We go, but with email, this.state.email. And this needs to have some sort of listener as well, right? We can say on change. And we say this dot. Okay. I guess I can't use the same function, right? Because this function is currently set up for name. That makes sense? Well, yeah, so let's say I say handle change email. All right? Now, this is one way to do it. And I go, okay, so now I've got handle change email. This is going to be essentially the exact same thing, but now this is email, right? Thank you. Handle change email, and then this becomes the same thing. Whoops. Okay, right? So we can see how this could start to get kind of messy pretty quick. And these look a hell of a lot similar to me. I don't know if they look essentially the same to you, do they? Okay, so let's see if we can use that something else to our advantage, right? So let's say I didn't want to do this because this feels like a lot of extra work that might be duplicated a lot of times down the line. And I just say, I really just want it to call the same thing. Based on, yeah, wherever I put it in, I want to still hit the same function because it's almost all the same except for that key.
Which is based on
What I'm entering. No click. We're dealing with inputs. These things.
Right, so based on, let's say if you click on name or select one as well.
I'm not quite going there yet. Johnny?
Do you create a else statement?
Very possible, right? So Johnny says, we could get around this. We could create one big handle change where we say, if event.target.value is equal to email, this set state, email event.target.value, right, or something, or this dot value.name, right? And then he's saying else if, right? Do we understand that? Yeah, I'll write it out. He's saying we could say if event.target dot name is equal to name. We could do this. Else if event.target dot name. Right, so this also looks like this could be made into a switch statement pretty easily, right? We could say case, email, case name. Okay, how do we feel about this kind of code? If we felt the other thing could be get out of hand, do we feel like this could also get out of hand, or do we feel like this is a really beautiful approach? Right, so it works, should work conceptually, but it definitely could get unruly fast. Crispina?
We're talking about the concept of dry or solve right now. I don't know how we're solving that.
What do you mean you don't remember how we're solving that?
We want a variable here, like I don't understand.
Right now we're trying to figure out how to solve for that. We haven't figured it out yet. We're working on it. So, because we don't want to have the same function over and over again, that essentially doing the exact same thing. So we're trying to keep it dry, totally on track with that. But the remembering how, we haven't quite figured out how yet. We're trying our options. First option we've come up with is this if-else statement. But we see if we had lots of inputs of different types, this might start to get really crazy. Kind of like when we did our initial routing in Node, if you guys remember, the HTTP. We did all of that if, else, and then we used Express, and it was like, boom. What do we, Nulene?
I don't know if this makes any sense, but could we do something like put this event as target of this line is the state and the default value, and then change that like how we do right under the other, we just change that somehow.
Maybe. I'm not so sure. There might be an easier way than that as well. So it's a little bit of like a tricky thing, okay? This is kind of like a syntactic thing, kind of goes back to object destructuring and all of that. So instead of having all of this, we could do our this.set state. And so now we have our state, and we can say the key of event.target.name and point that to event.target.value. Does this seem like this is going to get unruly quick? No, it's only one line of code.
Is that ternary?
This is not a ternary. This is saying inside of our state at this key, just like before when we were doing keys. Now it's this key points to this value. So before we had name here or email here, both of which are keys. And in order to have this be some type of variable, we put it inside of brackets. And we say at this key, because we've given each of our inputs names. Right, we have name and email, which happen to align perfectly with the state names we chose. And so we can say, hey, at that key, we want to update the state to have the value of the event.target.value. Much sexier.
Do the same thing.
So it's already set up now for you. So I'm not going to use the debugger for this. I'm instead going to, inside of our render, this seems like a good opportunity to do console log and to do this dot state. So I'm going to console log our state. I'm going to remove our debugger. And let's play. So we got our state, email, and name. Empty. I go into our name, type in Corey. You can see it updates. Go into email, and I say Sky. A space at the end, not with a space at the end. That is our state that we're seeing printed. So now it's updating. Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. The handle change is updating that the box for both of them. But I don't know how they're doing both. At the same time, we were trying to get it so that we're doing both, and then I understand that that's not a problem. Why are we doing both?
Well, part of that answer is that our state is one object. And so when we're referring to set state, we're always referring to the exact same object. Are we with me on that?
How are we referring to the exact same object?
Set state is, I can't highlight, it's so annoying. Set state is, grabs our state object and then merges them together with an update. So we're saying that this key, we want it to have this value.
The question that I had is, so why is the event that target inside the array?
It's inside of brackets. I wouldn't say it's inside of an array, and that's because if we do it like this, it won't know because event.target isn't like already a key. It gets weird. It's like just one of those rules. It doesn't compile that way.
And bracket, so what exactly is this?
It's separating this so this already gets to be evaluated as a key. It's just like that's the syntax of it. I don't know the. Yep.
So the thing that I'm asking is, I see that the key is event.target.name.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm confused about is why is the email changing to? Is that even happening? Like I don't understand why it's happening.
Well, it's happening when our target's name is email. Here, I'll put the debugger back in. Save it. I write an email and I say e, and I go event.target.name. It's currently email. Event.target.value is p. And I continue, and then if I go back into name and I say h, I get the same thing. So target.name is now named, and our value is h. Right, so this goes back to what Renat said as well, and we get this kind of annoying warning in React for doing this, but this is how I like to do it also, so I'm going to do it. Inside of my form, right, instead of having a listener on this and a listener on this, I could just have one listener on the form. On change this dot handle change. And now I can remove that. Did I remove something else too? No. Oh, so now only my form is listening for the changes. Yeah, what is going on? I just put it in the wrong spot, eh? I made something weird happen. Did I duplicate a line? It's because of this highlighting thing. Okay. Good. Let's make sure it works. I'm going to take out our debugger. Didn't do that. So see, now we get this really annoying warning because it wants each thing to have a listener. But it's just a warning, so I'm going to ignore it for now. We can see that it updates both. 2 birds, 1 stone. Questions on this form so far? No questions. Okay. Yep.
So you click on change it, which both name email.
Yep.
See the code again.
Why am I able to put it just on form? Can anybody tell me? Why am I able to just put one handler on the form? Newly? Yeah, what's that called? None of those, but I like it. Does anybody know the name? I gotta be quick on these names. This is called event delegation or event bubbling. Right? When it happens on a child, it bubbles up to its parents. So because all of these inputs and labels, everything currently is a child of form, it hits that, that's the target, and then the target moves, not the target, the event moves up, and that's why our current target will be slightly different, and that's why we're using target instead of current target inside of our handle check. Which part? Event delegation and event bubbling. Luna. Absolutely. So I'm doing this with something called event bubbling or event delegation, which is the idea that when an event occurs, it bubbles up. So we got a grandma, right? We've got her child. Let's say we'll call him Paul. We'll call her G. Paul's got a child. Paul's child is Becky. Oh, maybe Becky's got the shave. Okay. Yeah, she's got like a shaved side. She's cool. Anyway, so the way that you can think about it is this: is like kind of like when you would talk about finances or something that like bullying, right? Like if your grandmother has no money, maybe she doesn't bother the children. Depends on the family, right? And the parents, maybe the parents don't ask their kids for money. I don't know. We all come from different families, but like the traditional or whatever. But when Becky needs money, Becky goes to Paul. And when Paul needs money, Paul goes to grandma, right? And so this is like the same thing with an event. So if an event happens to Becky and we click on the LI, then the UL is going to feel it. It's also like, oh, okay, Becky comes home, some kid bullied her at school, said, like, why'd you shave the side of your head? Paul is going to go give that other kid a hard time, right? But if something happens to Paul, if Paul gets bullied, he's not going to tell Becky, right? He's going to tell his grandma. Yeah, his mom. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, should just be queen, head of the house. Does that make sense how that's happening? So when we click on Paul, we're hitting grandma or the queen. Okay. So you're thinking of name too literally. We're talking about the name of the input. It's a great question. Yeah.
And what do you have to read inputs? It seems like
Yep.
as long as you remove this detail, okay. Select.
Yeah, it'll be fine. As long as we have this name here, we're okay. Cool. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try to explain select, and then we'll go to lunch, and then you'll work on your thing. If we don't get through it, that's all right. Okay, so for select, we remember select tags, I hope, from our HTML at Unit 2. Yeah, a lot of this should be somewhat reviewed, just with like a slight twist. So I'm going to add a select. I'm going to give our select a name. And I'm going to say name. I'm going to call it favorite flavors. So this is going to be my favorite ice cream flavors. Okay? I'm going to call it favorite flavors. I'm going to say it down here. Oh, you know what? Forget that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a label and close our select tag down here. So if I want to create a label, I also have to have an ID, I think. But, you know what? I'm gonna go faster. So I'm just gonna like leave it and say favorite flavors here. I'm not gonna go through the trouble of writing a label for now. Is that all right with us? And I'm gonna add a couple breaks. Okay. Now we got this thing. It's got nothing in it, right? Sorry? And inside, what's a select tag? What goes inside of a select tag? Option. Yeah, thank you. Okay, option. And our option, we can say we're going to give this one the value of strawberry. And I'm going to say strawberry. Chocolate. And vanilla. We're just going to do 3 flavors, okay? Okay, so I'm going to add this to my state up at the top. I'm going to say favorite. So we really should have called this favorite flavor, right? Because we're only going to get one. So I'm going to change that. Because this has to be the same. I'm going to use this in that event, right? So I have to have this the same as the state. The reason, can anybody tell me why I might be reusing snake case here? Anybody have like is anybody wondering about that? Why am I using snake case? Why might I be using snake case? Don't have to, but why might I be using it right now? Maybe. So I'm thinking ahead, right? Do we remember working with our Express? And when we were dealing with the actual database, everything was in snake case. You remember that? As the keys and stuff? What? Well, when we were writing our SQL databases and we were coming up with names of our columns and stuff, it was all in snake case, right? So I'm just doing this so that when I someday submit this form and I have to send back an object, I'll just send back my state. And everything will already be formatted correctly. Yep, I'm thinking ahead for when I have to go hit the back end. But if not, you'll have to just convert it, and that will be okay. We'll convert it in the front end or back end, I guess.
International comes for about the next
we're not really there. Yeah. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. So what should be our default flavor? Yeah. So I think we could do strawberry for this is safe bet. But for now, I'm gonna actually do empty just so we can see why I might want to make it strawberry. Okay, so we go over here and we see, oh, okay, we got strawberry, chocolate, vanilla. Awesome. It's updating. We can see in our state. Awesome. So if I refresh, we're going to see something. And what if right now I were to submit this form? I know we don't have a way of doing that right now, but if I were to submit the form, why might this not be what we want? Like I fill it out. I say, all right, Corey, Pursuit. Oh, strawberry is my favorite flavor. What might be wrong? Johnny. Exactly. We haven't fired an event for our selector. Because we haven't fired an event for our selector, and I didn't make like a different default empty one or something, the user might think, oh yeah, strawberry is really good. Oh yeah, I'll stick with that one. But we didn't actually make a change. Right, we can see in the state here, it didn't change. Even though I clicked and I looked at our options, I just left it because we're listening for an on change. So how can we get around that? Well, that's kind of hacky, but it works, right? I could do a strawberry right there. So now if my user looks, it's reflecting correctly.
Why not just have it?
I could. It's up to you. It depends on how you want to set it up, right? You can put like disabled. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Is this making sense how we're using select?
I don't know why strawberry is not have to update.
This is looking for a change. It definitely still updates. But if the user gets to the page and fills out the form and they already like strawberry, and they go hit submit their form, we haven't actually changed anything. It's a fake input for them. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to select. Now let's pretend I was loading up someone else's. I was loading up a user. Okay, so I got this user from my database, and I filled out my state correctly through something called props. Just pretend, right? And I had my name was already there as Corey, because like we called up a specific user's preferences, right? And we want to edit that person. We've done things like this probably in websites. And I had email at Pursuit, and favorite flavor I already had as chocolate, right? So when this page loads, it shows, oh, Pursuit, great, that's my email, that's Corey. So I can already edit my profile, but it's showing that I like strawberries instead of chocolate, right? That's confusing to me as a user. I don't like that. So you can get around that pretty easily by going inside of our selector. We can just say value, and we can say this.state.favorite flavor. Save that. Now, oh, there we go. That looks correct. And I can still change it. Have to make sure it still works. Good. Everything's still good. Excellent. Questions? Cool. So what we did is we created a form. We had input tags. We listened to an event on the form to listen for event delegation and event bubbling. we use this.setState on any type of change, and we keyed into our state at this.event.name. We set that to event.target.value. And that was pretty much it. That was our whole name. We gave our names a couple of labels. We had their value being equal to this.state, whatever they are referring to. We've also created our select, where our value is also whatever we've called for inside of our state. And we also just created these, which is pretty much the same as what it was in Unit 2, with the exception of the value line. Cool? All right, it's lunchtime. Yeah, I'll get commit info.